So, what are the special tests for tennis elbow? Well, there's a lot of them. And I think the first thing to understand is that not all of these tests have a lot of great research in order to back up the effectiveness of picking up whether or not this is the problem in your elbow. The other piece is that the gold standard they use to judge these tests is going to vary from study to study. And we do know that if you have an MRI diagnosis of tendinopathy, doesn't necessarily mean that you have pain. All right. So take these numbers with a grain of salt. They are pretty good to try to rule in or rule out this pathology. The first test, chairlift test. And I've seen this described in a variety of different ways, but basically all you're doing is having your patient walk up to a chair, grip the top of the chair with the arms pronated, elbows extended, and lift the chair up and see if that reproduces the patient's normal or familiar pain on the outside of the elbow, right? I've also seen this test described with a pinch grip between the thumb and the first two fingers. So pinching the chair and trying to lift up from that position. The next test that's very popular is a Cosens test, which is basically a resisted wrist extension test. So basically you have the patient sit down, extend their elbow. They're going to radial deviate their wrist, extend the wrist. And from here, we're going to resist wrist extension. If they have a reproduction of their pain on the outside of the elbow, reproduce those familiar symptoms, that would be a positive test. This test has a 91% sensitivity, so good at ruling out issues, but it has a poor specificity, so you can't rule in tennis elbow very well with this test. The next test is the Mills test. And the Mills test, you're basically just stretching all the wrist extensions, right? So the patient is seated. The clinician palpates the patient's lateral epicondyle while pronating the patient's forearm, flexing the wrist with the elbow extended. A positive test is pain of the lateral epicondyle. And this test has a pretty poor sensitivity of 53%, but a pretty high specificity, right? So if someone has a negative test, we can't really rule out lateral epicondylalgia well, but if they have a positive test, that's pretty good at ruling in tennis elbow. Okay. We can also use a few other special tests. So if someone has grip weakness, that has an 83% accuracy of diagnosing tennis elbow. You can also do a resisted middle finger test. So resisted middle or ring finger test. And that's thought to provoke the ECRB if that's involved. The other test that's pretty interesting is testing strength of the grip with the elbow extended versus flexed to 90 degrees. And we have a little bit of research to show that if you have more weakness with gripping with the elbow extended, that increases the likelihood that you have tennis elbow, right? And the thought being, again, that if I grip with my elbow extended, I'm at least the same strength-wise and probably a little bit stronger than gripping with my elbow bent at 90 degrees, right? So if I have pain on the side of my elbow associated with tennis elbow and I extend my elbow and I grip, I may be weaker in that position because I'm putting a little stress on that tendinopathy region of the tendon that hurts, okay? And this test actually has a decent sensitivity at 78 to 83% and a decent specificity of 80 to 90%, okay? So these three tests I would use to try to evaluate for tennis elbow. Mills, Cosen, as well as this grip test here at 90 degrees of elbow flexion and at 0 degrees in full extension. So here's what I want you to do next, guys. If you enjoyed this video so far, I have an entire course. It's free. It's called the Fitness Pain-Free Mini Course. And we go over 3 lessons. It's going to help you take a lot of this information that we went over so far and put it into practice. The first lecture is called Why We Need a Better System. So first and foremost, the way we treat fitness individuals, all right, athletic people in the gym from a physical therapy perspective is pretty much broke, okay? So we need a better system to serve the folks that are in the gym that get hurt, they want to get back to training, all right? Lecture number 2 is called 7 Reasons Why People Get Hurt in the Gym. And essentially, we have to know the reasons why people get hurt in the gym so we can keep them safe in the future, right? And when they get hurt, we have to know why and how to get them back to training in the gym. Okay, so a thorough understanding of this is very, very important. I actually have a really cool infographic that goes along with this lecture that you get for free as well. And lastly, we go over a case study of how to get someone out of pain and back to training. So these principles are all phenomenal, but we don't actually put it together and you don't understand how to create a program to get people back in the gym and keep them safe for the long term, then we lose, right? So I'll put a link in the show notes for this. It's a Fitness Pain-Free Mini Course. Definitely check this out.